Welcome to WEFTEC Now. I'm Travis Loop with the Water Environment Federation, here with Dr. Bruce Logan, Professor of Environmental Engineering at Penn State University. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a great day here.
Yeah, so you came to WEFTEC and gave a science lecture, and so what was that all about?
Well, I've been working for a lot of years on the energy sustainability of the water infrastructure. We use about 5% of our electricity in the country just for our water infrastructure. So looking into the future, the question is, how are we going to maintain that? What sort of things do we need to be thinking about now as we move into the future?
Okay. And I know that a big part, one of the things you focus a lot on also is energy literacy.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, this is really important. You know, if somebody says that it's like 10 Olympic swimming pools, you understand it, right?
Right.
You have context for these things. But how do you relate megajoules to BTUs, to watts, to kilowatt hours, to horsepower, right? They're all different units, and you can't, you know, it's hard to put a number on things like that. So what I ask people is, if you were to take the food you eat every day, which is 2,000 calories, how many 100-watt light bulbs could you run continuously?
Wow.
Right, so to try and relate the energy that you can see to the food you eat, basically.
How many 100-watt light bulbs could you run? So, 20?
Right, okay, so that's perfect. It's not the right answer,
okay.
But it's perfect.
I was like, did I get that right?
No. And most people guess between a few light bulbs and 20 or 30 light bulbs,
Okay.
right? The shocking answer is one.
One, wow. So you run this whole machine, this whole human body.
Right.
It would equal powering one light bulb.
One light bulb.
Huh.
100 watt. Now that's an inefficient light bulb, but still.
But I guess our body's pretty efficient then.
Our body's pretty efficient,
Huh.
yes. And so, since this is a Water Environment Federation, I can talk about what goes down the drain.
You can.
That's about 25 watts.
Okay.
In your wastewater. So that gives you a sense, so you can, I think you can relate to the food, you can relate to a light bulb, but it's hard to relate to these other units. So when you think about a wastewater treatment plant, how much energy does it take to run, and you know how much energy is in the wastewater, I think that helps. But I'll give you another one. So what we do is we try and normalize everything to the food you eat. So let's call that 1D, one daily energy unit. How many daily energy units in a gallon of gasoline? About 14.
Okay, wow.
How many Ds does it take to run your refrigerator? About half a D.
For a day, wow.
Right, so your food is 1 D, your refrigerator is half a D.
Huh.
And so by doing these sorts of things, I think it puts a perspective on how much energy we use. We use about 100 times the energy that we eat. And so as we move into the future, I think we have to think about how we can conserve the energy, and especially at water and wastewater treatment plants, how we can run them very efficiently so that maybe in the end they're actually net energy producers.
So part of the idea here is giving a way for a more general public to get a better understanding of when we're talking about energy, how much it is, and especially as we're pushing for energy efficiency and renewable energy and mitigating greenhouse gases and all this kind of thing. It's to help them have more context and an understanding for those conversations.
Right. I mean, you have to start with a common language, or at least an interpreter. And so, I think that's where we are. You could ask people that make car engines or people that run pumps. They don't really have a sense of how that energy fits into their home energy, into their transportation energy. And so building up that knowledge, I think, is what I call energy literacy, which is sort of the first step of being literate in how much energy we use, and we use a lot.
Do you talk about that with students?
I do, more and more the curriculum at universities is starting to focus on this too. We're starting to not just talk about how you treat wastewater, but how much energy it takes, and how do you fit that wastewater treatment plant into the community needs for municipal power.
You said something I just want to go back and get clarification on, because I'm really curious. You said that your waste is about
25 watts.
25 watts of energy. So you're saying when you go to the bathroom one time?
No, just averaged over it's like 2,000 calories.
Over a day.
You could eat 2,000 calories in one sitting at McDonald's, but Depends how much you eat and when.
Okay. Because like you said, being in working at WEF and being at WEFTEC, I'm very curious about the details here. That sounds like an interesting fact that I can carry on and share with others.
No,
so,
absolutely. And
yeah.
that's what I hope people do. That what's a solar panel produce per day? On average, about 0.4 D.
Wow.
So if you're going to have an electric car and you use 2 gallons of gas, that's 28 D. Okay. That's a lot of solar panels.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm curious about why the water sector should think about and do more about energy sustainability.
Yeah.
I mean, you have what I think is pretty obvious, right? Like we are trying to deal with the drivers of climate change.
Right.
Being more energy sustainable is good for business. Right. Is that it? Is there more to it? Do you want to dive deeper on those?
No, there's more to it. I mean, first of all, you can say, can we even capture the energy that's in the wastewater and use that? Why do we need other energy sources? We have to think about, I talk about thinking outside the box or outside the treatment plant, because in college you're taught about how to design a treatment plant. But today we have to think about what's outside the treatment plant. For example, treatment plants are built down by the river, down by the ocean, and so flooding is an incredible challenge to the future of our wastewater treatment plant infrastructure. You can't have your plant being flooded every 3 or 4 months, right?
Sure.
So that's thinking about that. You have to think about where the energy comes from that you use. Right now it's fossil. If we want to address climate change, it should be solar or wind, because these things are carbon neutral. That will also reduce the overall footprint of the water industry, which is what climate change is about. Everybody taking a piece and helping to
doing
cut
their
back.
doing their part.
Doing their part,
Exactly.
Sure.
Sure. So what do you think are some of the greatest opportunities then for water utilities to conserve and create energy?
Well, many of these treatment plants are really aware of energy usage. They've cut back on aeration rates. They've maximized energy production in digesters. So if they're going to do something else, they got to change the game. So that would be going to completely anaerobic secondary treatment instead of using activated sludge, and thinking about the energy that they produce, maybe going solar and trying to not use that carbon based energy, and trying to map out a path whereby they can acquire that solar energy.
Sure, and there are a few utilities out there that have gone net zero, right?
Yep.
There's like East Bay Mud and a few others like that.
And you're thinking the big ones too, those are really the big ones, but the smaller plants have to think, what can we do? And what they can do actually is look to solar energy, because solar energy in State College, Pennsylvania, which is not exactly the warmest, sunniest place in the US, is also going solar. And it may not be solar throughout the whole year, but the net carbon impact will be greatly reduced. In the summer, they'll produce twice as much energy as they need. In the winter, half as much. But that's looking to the future. And the solar panels don't have to be next to the plant. There's no requirement that they be there. They can be an hour away. So we can uncouple the consumption and production, but just being able to view the capital investment that you need to go solar would be a good first stop.
Why is solar a good opportunity?
Solar, if you haven't looked at solar lately, you really don't know what's going on in the industry, because the price of large-scale solar is now half that, for electricity, is now half that of natural gas.
Wow.
Right, and so Los Angeles is building a solar farm which will produce, I think it's 0.4 gigawatts. So gigawatts like a really big power plant.
Yeah.
And the power is going to be at 2 cents a kilowatt hour. Natural gas is 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Coal is 5 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's going to be less than natural gas, and they can put in battery power, store the energy, for about 1.5 cents a kilowatt hour.
Okay.
So, when people said, they used to say, solar's too expensive. We can't afford to do it.
And the battery issue too.
And
right?
the battery issue too, right? And now it's like, it's too cheap, you can't afford not to do it.
And one other thing you said, which is interesting, is large, medium, small utilities,
Right.
and they have obviously different levels of resources,
Right.
different levels of expertise, different capacity to do things.
Right.
So you think it's feasible for smaller, medium utilities to take some steps?
It's
like
actually much easier for them because they probably have land, not too far from their power plant, from the treatment plant. And
they're in more rural areas, suburban areas.
And they're struggling, it's like they can't they can't make electricity from digester gas because there's not enough there. It's a scale question. But solar panels, they're infinitely scalable. You can buy one, you can buy 100,000 of them.
Sure.
So that issue is much simpler.
Yeah. I understand solar energy, but let's ask about a couple things that I really don't understand very well.
Okay.
Not being a science person here,
All
but
right.
opportunities with microbial fuel cells
Yeah.
and electronutrient recovery.
Right. So I said that if we're going to get away from activated sludge, we need to use an anaerobic process. A microbial fuel cell is, well, it's cool. You remember the movie The Matrix, where supposedly these guys the people were the source of electricity?
Yes,
Well,
they were Harvard, humans were.
They don't produce much electricity, but that's the science fiction part. But we use bacteria on electrodes that convert the organic matter into electricity, literally doing what they were trying to do in The Matrix. And so you take that organic matter that's coming in, that becomes the fuel for the plant. And so the bacteria make that electricity, we can harvest that electricity. It's not much, right? But if you go, say, from consuming 100 watts to treat a cubic meter of wastewater to producing 10 or 20 or 30 watts per cubic meter, right? So it becomes, it's a cool technology. Is it economical? Not yet.
Yep.
But it's the capital costs are at least under control now.
And like you said, it all adds up. If you can do a little bit here with this, a little bit over here with that, then that's going to have a big cumulative impact.
And then the other thing that you asked about, which is the
electronutrient
removal.
Yeah.
So right now, most treatment plants that remove nitrogen and phosphorus, but I'll just talk about nitrogen, do nitrification, denitrification. You convert the ammonia that's in the wastewater to nitrate, and then the nitrate goes to nitrogen. Okay, but if you have an anaerobic process, like I'm saying we should, how do you get the nitrogen out? There's no oxygen to convert ammonia to nitrate. And the ammonia has value. So the energy in that ammonia, if you could extract that ammonia, that means you don't need to make more ammonia. And ammonia production is really, really energy intensive. So I think we have to start to say, how can we get that ammonia out? And we're developing a technology which is based on using electricity. Well, but maybe we're making it at the plant, or we have solar panels, where we can pull out the ammonia and recover it, and then it's available for reuse.
Yeah.
So still very developmental. We've only been doing this for about a year or so. But that's kind of a new cutting edge technology.
What do you think of the water sector's rate of adoption of energy sustainability measures and technology?
They will adopt any proven energy sustainability method in a heartbeat. The problem is, if it's not really, really well proven, it's a very conservative industry. It takes technologies 10 to 20 years to mature, enough for most people to adopt them. So you have to look at the early adopters, industries who have backup plans, in case something doesn't work, they have a backup plan, and they're not required to treat wastewater 24/7. So I think industries could be early adopters of these technologies, and then the more public treatment works will probably be slower to adopt. Not that they're not willing or they're not interested, but they have to be very careful about the bottom line.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that they may have just built a plant that was meant to last 20 or 30 or 40 years. How can they suddenly tear it down and build a new one?
Sure.
Wouldn't work. So there's lots of reasons, but we need to be thinking about the plants we're starting to build, because they're going to be there in 50 years, and we can't afford the energy liability on some of these plants.
Yeah. Well, I could sit here all day and talk about this, because it's such critical stuff. But so thank you for the information
You're
perspective.
welcome.
Very helpful. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all for watching very much. For more interviews, visit weftec.org/now.